everybody. It is a little after 2, and I think we're ready to start. Thank you for joining us today. Kat, please let me know if you can hear. Let's just make sure that our sound is good before we jump in.
Yes, I can hear you. I hear you clearly,
Great.
Holly.
Okay. Thanks to everyone for joining us today. I'm Holly Carr with the U.S. Department of Energy, and I'd like to welcome you to our Better Buildings Alliance Open House webinar. As you know, the Better Buildings Alliance exists to support our members in reaching their energy efficiency goals. Today, our goal is to provide an overview of our recent and upcoming activities across the Alliance. We hope that this perspective will introduce you to resources that can be of use and help you determine what Alliance activities you might like to participate in over the coming year. This forum is also an opportunity for you to provide feedback and ask questions. So let's go on to the next slide, Kat, if you would. There we go. Lots of faces. So first off, let's put some faces, or put some names to all these faces. These are all the folks who support the Better Buildings Alliance, many of whom you will hear from today. I'm Holly Carr, and I work specifically with the retail folks and also more broadly across all of our partnership programs. Cindy Zhu is new to DOE. Many of you have met her by phone, and she heads up our commercial real estate work with partners in the Alliance and the Challenge. Andy Mitchell heads up work with hospitality partners and also works very closely with many of our tech teams. Sultan Latif works with food service, healthcare, and higher education partners. And then the folks on the bottom line from ICF and JDM also support those sectors. So Kara supporting food service and grocery, Zach Abrams supporting retail, Jake Dowling supporting commercial real estate, Sam Stafford supporting healthcare and hospitality, and last but not least, John Jameson supporting higher education. So you'll hear from all of your account managers today telling you much more detail about what our various sectors are doing, and then Andy will tell us a lot about what's happening in the tech teams. And Deb, we didn't get your picture up here, but Deb will be talking to us about the market solutions work that's happening in the Alliance. Next slide, please. So the plan for today is to provide an overview of the Alliance and its structure, and then each of our sector account managers will spend a few minutes to update you on recent accomplishments of their sector teams and the priorities for 2016. Andy Mitchell and Deb will provide some information on the tech and market solutions teams, and we'll close with a few announcements and some time for Q&A. We certainly encourage you to take advantage of the chat box, which you should see in the lower right-hand corner of your webinar screen. Please take advantage of that to ask us questions as we go through some of these updates with you, and also to provide your feedback. We're really looking for your thoughts about, the sector priorities we're putting forth and the work that the tech teams are doing. Where do you see need? Where do you see additional areas that you could use some support from the Department of Energy? So please use that interactive option there. Next slide, please. So this is just a reminder that the Better Buildings Alliance, way up there in the upper left-hand corner with the Better Buildings Challenge, is a part of a much larger initiative, the Better Buildings Initiative writ large. The work that the Alliance does is really our work to engage with you all in the trenches who are doing energy efficiency in the market, who are leading the market in energy efficiency. So next slide, please. Drilling down a little bit to the structure of the Alliance. As you can see, we're kind of a matrixed organization. We've got an X and a Y axis. So we have our sector teams across the top. One exciting thing you'll hear a little bit more about today is that we now have a separate hospitality sector that has split off from the commercial real estate group. And then down below, we have a number of technology and market solutions teams. These tech and market solutions teams are open to all members across all sectors and are indeed enhanced by the cross-sector sharing, I think, that we get. You'll be hearing more from each of these teams in just a moment. Next slide, please. So a quick overview of the Alliance today. The Alliance boasts 199 members representing nearly 10 billion square feet of commercial building space in the U.S. And together we are over 10% of the total U.S. commercial building space. The Alliance offers more than 60 energy-saving activities and resources for your commercial buildings. And if you are listening and you are considering joining the Alliance, you could be the 200th member. That would be very exciting. So send us an email if you're ready to join and be the 200th member of the Alliance. Next slide, please. I would like to welcome our new members this year. As you can see, new members represent both building owners and managers as well as affiliate organizations. These nonprofits and trade organizations are partnering with us to take the message of energy efficiency to their memberships, and we hope exponentially increase the impact the Alliance can have. We look forward to engaging with all of our new members this year. Thank you for joining. Next slide, please. So each sector group has a sector chair, or chairs, co-chairs in some cases. These chairs make up the Alliance Steering Committee, which helps to guide the sectors and the work of the Alliance each year. I'd just like to offer a special thanks to our Steering Committee chairs this year, Susan Corey at the University of Maryland for higher ed, Chris McGee and Ray Hobbs at MGM Resorts International and Kelco Management. In hospitality, Eric Duchon at Cushman & Wakefield for our commercial real estate sector group, Kyle Wilkes from J.C. Penney for retail, food service, and grocery sector group, and Corey Zarecki at Gunderson Health chairing the healthcare sector group. Thank you very, very much. Next slide, please. All right, so all of these sector groups who we just met, all the chairs, everybody got together over the last month and really tried to help us set the sector priorities for each of the sector groups. We're going to move right into now the sector overviews, and commercial real estate is first. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and pass the baton to our CRE lead, Jake Dowling, or account manager, I'm sorry, to provide an overview of the new resources from commercial real estate, upcoming work in this sector, sector priorities. Jake.
Great. Thanks so much, Holly, and hello, everyone. Just a quick overview of the commercial real estate sector. We currently have 52 members participating in the Better Buildings Alliance, which account for more than, or nearly 6 billion square feet of commercial floor space, which we are really happy about. And collectively, it's about 35% of the sector's floor space in the U.S. market. Our membership is pretty diverse. We have national and regional owners and managers of office, retail, industrial, and multifamily space. So, we are excited to work with each of our organizations to attack each of their unique problems. And this year, we look forward to getting a little bit more involved with some of the regional and local owners and operators to, drill down our focus a little bit more. In 2015, we had a pretty successful year. Last year, we identified 2 priorities for the sector. One was stakeholder engagement, and we attacked that in a few different ways. The first was we encouraged all of our members to attend an Energy Star webinar on tenant engagement at the end of 2014 that presented a series of case studies on successful tenant engagement in the market. We presented a panel discussion at the 2015 BOMA annual convention on engaging asset managers, another stakeholder. And then we also worked with the Appraisal Foundation and their competency guidelines on appraising and valuing green buildings to review and offer comments on that document. A second priority that we had identified was cogeneration and CHP, and there was a summit session that focused on that for interested members. And then we had a dedicated discussion at the Better Buildings Summit in 2015 to talk about CRE trends, challenges, and opportunities, a little bit more of which you will hear about in a later slide. And then the exciting news that Holly already mentioned, hospitality reached a critical mass to venture off on its own. So CRE is now its own sector and steering committee, which allows us to provide a little more focus to what we are prioritizing each year. Two new resources that Andy, I believe, will tell you a little bit more about later that I wanted to mention. The Solar PV Decision Guide is for specifically implementing solar photovoltaics in leased buildings. And then the EMIS specification and procurement guidance document that the EMIS team would also be very relevant to CRE members that are on the phone. And then finally, for the next year, 2016, we identified with our steering committee a couple of key areas to focus on. One is understanding and communicating the connection between sustainability and building value to financial decision makers to try to make investment a little bit easier. The next is identifying and evaluating skilled engineers. As building automation systems and EMIS become more and more complex, making sure that the staff in the building know how to operate those systems and make smart decisions with their buildings is really important. We like to focus on that a little bit more. And then identifying and supporting industry efforts to engage and train commercial brokers. Brokers are a key connection point between tenants and landlords, especially as we try to build demand for high performance space. And so that is an issue that we'd like to focus on as well. And I think that about covers it for me.
Great, thanks very much, Jake. Next up from Zach Abrams and Kara Bastoni, an update on the retail, food service, and grocery sector. Again, I encourage folks to share any questions or feedback you have through the webinar interface on the chat box and let us know what you think, what you'd like to see, and so forth. Thank you. Zach.
Actually, I'm going to go first, Holly. This is Kara Bastoni.
Okay.
Can we go to the next slide? Great. Hi, everyone. This is Kara Bastoni with ICF International. I'm the Food Service and Grocery Account Manager based out of the DC area in Fairfax. And I'll start off this overview section and then hand it over to Zach Abrams, the Retail Account Manager. The retail, food service, and grocery sector has 47 members currently, accounting for 2.7 billion square feet of space and 19% of the sector's floor space in the U.S. market. Some of our members are listed here. I especially want to call out our new members, Sefco Convenience Stores and Luxottica. Welcome. We also have a few new members on our steering committee this year. Luxottica is one of them, as well as representatives from Arby's and CKE. Our contact information is on this slide for both Zach and myself. If you're interested in joining, you can email either of us. Next slide, please. A quick review of what we've been up to for the past year. We've been working on several focus areas. One of them is EMIS for retail, food service, and grocery specifically. We had an overview webinar in the last fall with best practice examples and a listing of resources that are currently available, and that is recorded. That webinar and slides are available at the link listed. We've also been looking at the business case considerations for proactive rooftop unit replacement. We had a presentation on this topic at the Better Building Summit, which is the business case for replacing RTUs with efficient models before they fail and emergency replacement is needed. You'll hear a little bit more about the resource that's coming out later in this presentation. We've also been focusing on the topic of retrofitting refrigerated display cases with doors, which is a topic we've heard is of interest to a lot of members, specifically showing there are energy savings there without an impact on sales. We are still working with members to develop some data that we can share publicly from an organization. Next slide, please. I wanted to call out a few resources that have come out relevant for this sector, a few case studies here. The first one is with Hannaford Grocery, transcritical carbon dioxide supermarket refrigeration system, which documents performance of their transcritical carbon dioxide refrigeration system compared to a conventional system in a similar store. and 2 case studies on RTU replacement, one from Target and one from Walgreens. Next slide, please. To talk about our current priorities and upcoming thoughts on activities, I'll hand it over to Zach. Are you there, Zach?
Kara, it sounds like
perhaps on mute.
The slide might be yours.
Okay.
Zach
All right.
might be having technical difficulties.
Okay. Sure thing. Sure thing. So a few of the topics that we are going to look at this year, one of them is green leasing for small box retail and restaurants, which we heard from members is an area of interest when it comes to tackling the split incentives between tenants and landlords when it comes to making improvements and seeing energy savings. One thought we had on that was to possibly develop some resources that small box retail and restaurants could kind of grab and customize for their organizations. Another topic is of interest is analysis paralysis is what we've been calling it, making data actionable, the vast amounts of data that organizations are collecting, making decisions about what to monitor, how often to evaluate that data to make changes to building systems. And the third area of interest that we're looking at is partnering with your utility on incentives, on making incentives work for you, possibly with the Technology Performance Exchange tool, which is a web portal that DOE has developed for listing energy performance of different building-related products. So those are our thoughts for the upcoming year. I think I'll give it to the next slide.
Okay, thanks, Kara. And with our higher education updates, we have John Jameson on the line, I hope.
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Thanks, Holly.
Hi, John.
Hi, we can go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so taking a look at the higher education sector, you can see we have 27 members comprising about 16% of the sector square footage. And I want to give a shout out to our newest member who isn't actually included on this list here. That's Northwestern University, who just joined 2 weeks ago. So we'll have to add them here, and we look forward to working with them as well. I also want to mention 2 new affiliates that joined us in the past year that aren't listed here. That would be APA, Leadership in Educational Facilities, who work a lot with facilities management staff, and also NACUBO, the National Association of College and University Business Officers. So we look forward to working with both of them moving forward. Next slide, please. So here we see a few of our accomplishments from the last year. And pardon that first bullet, that should be December 2014, peer exchange call on recruiting and retaining skilled staff. So we held a peer exchange and discussed different strategies that UC Irvine, University of Virginia have both looked at for bringing on skilled staff. We did send out some resources afterwards as well. If you'd like to look more at those, just email me after this and I can send those out. As I just mentioned, we also have some new affiliate partnerships, and Sustainable Endowments Institute also joined in late 2014. So are already underway working with them. And last bullet here, we convened a session at the Better Building Summit in May on industry benchmarking, particularly looking at a new tool to use, which I will mention on our next slide, please. And here you'll see the higher education sector priorities that were determined by the steering committee recently, a few weeks ago. The first one that I just mentioned before, facilities benchmarking, is actually listed at the bottom here. But that new tool is the Building Performance Database, operated by Department of Energy. And this was appealing to us because Traditionally in higher ed, campuses have trouble benchmarking because they either have a diversity of space types, not only on the campus, but also within buildings, and so it's hard to classify as just office or just classroom. You might have a laboratory space mixed with a gymnasium, mixed with something else, all in one building. So it creates a very difficult benchmarking situation. So neat thing about this tool is it allows you to break your building out by percentage space type. So the outcome of this is that there's a call being held in January among Second Nature, USGBC, and other organizations and about the potential for using this tool moving forward. Our ask is that you stay tuned, and following that meeting, we're going to look to develop a list of data metrics that our members would find useful to have in this tool. So stay tuned on that for now. Working our way up, addressing campus growth was also mentioned during the call. And one of the most common challenges we hear is that energy efficiency gains on campuses are complicated by campus expansion, especially in research facilities. They can be very energy intensive. So we'll be setting up a peer exchange call in a few weeks on issues that different campuses are facing, especially among different types of colleges, and how we could go about addressing those. So potential paths forward include improving space utilization, facilitating more equipment sharing, especially energy-intensive equipment, and building energy efficiency into public-private partnerships, which can grow a lot of the growth. So stay tuned. I'll be sending out dates and times for that if you're a higher education member. And lastly, the first priority up top here was most talked about on our steering committee call. That's continuous commissioning and controls optimization. And specifically, we'll be looking to find some success stories among other Better Buildings members, because this was mentioned across the different sectors. So we will be looking for those success stories, writing up a case study, and promoting those out to the membership. So with that, if you are on this call and you have a particularly good case study that you'd like to push out there, we would love to feature it and share with members and share the good work that you're doing. So please let us know if you have a great fault detection story, controls architecture, and we'll work with you. And I think that's it for me.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. And that really is, part of the beauty of the Alliance is to be able to share best practices not only between folks in a sector within healthcare or within higher education, but also to share those success stories more broadly across sectors. And as John mentioned, we are seeing some cross-sector priorities around energy management systems and so forth, and we'll try to capitalize on that this year. So let's take a look at the healthcare sector with Samantha Stafford, please.
Great, thanks, Holly. Hi, everyone. This is Samantha Stafford. I am both the healthcare and hospitality account manager, and I work with JDM. So as Holly was saying, we definitely did find some cross-sector priorities between higher ed, healthcare, and hospitality in regards to EMIS, but I'll get into that in just a couple minutes. So backing up, here's some information on the Healthcare Sector Alliance members. We are at 29 members. We just were joined actually by the University of Utah Healthcare, who joined us just recently. And they joined to make 29, and we have about 0.3 billion square feet, which is about 7% of the healthcare market currently. And looking back, some of the 2015 accomplishments that we've had so far in healthcare have been a series of peer exchanges and also conference presentations. So last year, the sector priorities in healthcare included identifying best practices on ventilation setbacks. And in regards to that, we held a peer exchange on ventilation setbacks for healthcare facilities. And additionally, there was another priority about identifying benefits of energy-efficient lighting beyond cost savings. And we held another peer exchange on that, which was very successful, Both of these peer exchanges are actually available online, both a transcript and the slides. So if you're interested in seeing those, feel free to reach out to me at my email that was on the previous slide. In addition to those peer exchanges, Better Buildings presented at both HFMA and CleanMed in conjunction with members. Both presentations were about financing energy efficiency projects, specifically really engaging with your CFO to make the business case, not only in regards to energy efficiency, but the other gains that you have by these projects. And then, as all the other account managers described, we recently had our steering committee call with our healthcare members, and we have identified new priorities for this upcoming year, which, as I just mentioned, one of those priorities is really evaluating the offerings of building controls, analytics, and EMIS from all the different options out there, as well as being able to manage that information that you are getting from your system to take action and make improvements. Additionally, as it was last year, optimizing air exchange rates in hospitals has been a really big priority, and we are going to be doing even more work on that in this upcoming year. And then, last but not least, another priority we've selected is managing the energy consumption of central plants and related equipment. Unlike a lot of building types out there, hospitals are unique in the fact that they oftentimes have central plants or district central plants, and really identifying the opportunities inherent in those. And then why don't we jump right into the hospitality sector. So as Jake mentioned earlier, CRE and hospitality, which used to be joint sectors, are now separate. So this will be the first year that hospitality is its own sector, and we just had the first ever hospitality steering committee call this past month, and we were excited to talk about new opportunities to really focus in on opportunities in the hospitality sector. So right now we have 10 members, which account for about 23% of the floor space in the U.S. market right now. And during the steering committee call, a lot of topics were discussed. And again, EMIS was another one that came up. And so we feel that there are a lot of opportunities this year. So please make sure you communicate with us if you have ideas for opportunities or activities that you think would be really beneficial for you, whether you're hospitality, healthcare, higher ed, we're really open to that. Additionally, we are looking at evaluating and financing solar PV at hospitality properties. So we are actually just about to finalize an on-site commercial solar PV decision guide specific for hospitality properties. And we're going to be having a webinar discussing the guide and also going through a case study from a property that installed solar PV on their carport. And that's going to be on November 10th. And if you're interested in getting involved in that, feel free to email me. Again, my email was on the previous slide. And also, as was mentioned with higher ed, hospitality is interested in having more opportunities to have peer benchmarking and industry benchmarking. So that's something we're going to be looking into this year as well. And that just wraps it up for healthcare and hospitality.
Great, thanks very much, Sam. To our audience, just a quick note that we are recording this session, and we will be posting an archive of it. Additionally, you've seen lots of email addresses fly by you on these slides. All of those will be available at the end of this presentation. They'll be available on the archive, and they will be emailed out to you along with a link to the archive, so you have direct connections to all of our DOE leads and all of our account managers for the sectors and easy access to us. All right, with that, let's go ahead and turn it over to Andy Mitchell first to tell us about the work of the tech teams this year and coming up.
Great, thanks, Holly. Just to review a little bit, Holly mentioned earlier that the structure of the Better Buildings is a bit matrixed. And so recall that we went through the sector teams. Well, everyone who's affiliated with a sector team is grouped according to the industry they're in. So you're sort of just put there de facto. But once you're part of the Better Buildings Alliance, you have the opportunity to join a technical team, and you can focus on whatever is of interest to you, whether it's lighting, space conditioning, and so forth. And so you'll see each of those 6 teams listed here. I'm just going to go through what we've done in these teams over the last year and what we're going to look forward to in 2016. Each team is led by a subject matter expert from either one of our national labs or Navigant Consulting. So what do these teams do? What they do is they meet regularly for short team calls, and they discuss relevant issues that fall basically along the lines of what I call the big 3, and those are the big 3 reasons that anyone joins Better Buildings Alliance. That's access to objective experts, peer-to-peer learning, and recognition opportunities. These teams also preview and comment on new resources and participate in the technology campaigns that we operate. The content of each team, so for instance, what aspects of refrigeration do we focus on, or what aspects of renewable integration do we focus on? That is kind of done by a balance. We take input from member interests all the time. We want to know what you're interested in, what you're working on, what issues are coming up, what calls you're getting from sales reps, frankly. And then we also perform our own objective research here at the Department of Energy to identify high-impact technologies. Next slide. Just a quick overview of what's happening in 2016. There were 2 more teams that were not on that list, and in an effort to streamline things and make them more, a little bit more intuitive, we're going to wrap the food service technical team into the food service sector team. So since that group's meeting anyway, they can discuss technology as needed. There was also a laboratory technical team. We decided to wrap that up for a number of reasons, and one of them, probably the best and most important, is that there's already a fantastic group called the International Institute for Sustainable Labs, which provides wonderful resources on energy efficiency in labs. So we encourage everyone to get involved with them if you have energy efficiency lab issues. Finally, for 2016, we're going to focus on getting the word out about existing resources and increasing use of those. Next slide. I mentioned earlier that we do our own objective research, and we also take input from you all, our members and the public at large. So along those lines, we're going to have an opportunity to get your input on what technologies are important in your industry, in your work. And you'll see 2 times listed there, one later this week, one next week. Those are open conference calls. They're hosted by Colin Weber at Navigant Consulting. His email's there. Again, that will be available at the end. And if you have input for us, we would appreciate getting it at that point. Amy Harone is the Hit Catalyst director, and her email is there also. You can also get in touch with me. I think we made the point. We're all very reachable. Looking forward to getting in touch with all of you as needed. Next slide. I'm going to go through these teams real briefly and just try to give an overview of what we're working on. The lighting and electric team. Focus this year is on the interior lighting campaign. So occasionally we're able to put the crosshairs on one specific technology and say that's what we're going to approach, that's what we're going to discuss, and we're going to find a way to make a big impact on the market. So that's what the ILC's goal is. We started off with a goal of replacing 100,000 troughers. That's the ubiquitous hallway fixture in many commercial and other application buildings. And what we realized quickly is that we were going to blow that out of the water. And so what we did was upped our goal from 100,000 to 1 million with some help from some great partners, as well as some organizing partners listed at the bottom there, BOMA, IFMA, Illuminating Engineering Society, among others. For more info on that, there's a link. You can also contact Linda Sandahl or myself. Next slide is, I guess this is just another opportunity for us to brag about the success of this so far. We blew past 100,000 and multiplied by 10. On the next slide, we don't want to neglect our ongoing campaign with the lighting and electric team, the Lighting Energy Efficiency in Parking campaign, or LEEP. In 2016, we're going to facilitate the handoff of this to our friends at Green Parking Council and our other organizing partners, and they will carry the torch. Obviously, parking lots are often lit 24/7, and most people aren't too picky about the lighting in there as long as it's secure and they're able to operate. So it's a great opportunity for energy efficiency, and the LEEP campaign has a host of resources available. Next slide. Okay, the space conditioning team has focused on the advanced rooftop unit campaign, and Sam mentioned that there's a number of resources that are available out there for ARC. ARC is kind of the unseen opportunity. Rooftop units, that is. They're kind of out of sight and out of mind, at least till they break, and when they do, they can be expensive and they can be incredibly inconveniencing. So a lot of what ARC does is focus on that proactive replacement. So don't wait till they break particularly if they're running inefficiently for sometimes years at a time. It's a great opportunity. On the next slide, you can see some of the activities we had from ARC in 2015. We've saved almost $9 million, or I should say our participants have, with 43,000 rooftop units being retrofitted or replaced. In 2016, we're going to up that goal to 75,000 and provide some more systems view of central plants and ventilation guides. Michael DeRue is the leader of that team. Dr. DeRue is based out of the National Renewable Energy Lab in Golden, Colorado, and his contact info is there if you have any questions. Next up is the plug and process load team. This is led by Rose Langner, also from NREL. Her contact info is at the bottom. In 2015, that team focused on creating a specification for advanced power strips, as well as a real simple how-to guide, because although that is a great opportunity, it can be confusing for the typical user. So a lot of what we do is try to make these technologies accessible for every person in the nation, and so that how-to guide is an opportunity for that. There's also utility incentive snapshot and some more products coming soon. In 2016, we'll do a case study on zero energy buildings and plug loads and a comparison of desktop versus cloud computing. Next up is the Renewable Integration Team. Renewables team is led by Jay Paidipati from Navigant Consulting. And next slide, please. In 2015, what we've done so far is taken a longer PV installation guide that we generated last year and broken it into sector specifics. So instead of having one long guide that applies to everyone, we broke it out. And they're pretty quick. I mean, they're, I think, about 8 pages of content, some case studies wrapped in there, very useful for healthcare, hospitality, and commercial real estate. We co-host a webinar on PV for healthcare. We're going to do that again for hospitality and probably for commercial real estate in the new year. There's also 10 case studies that go along with those. So in 2016, we'll keep responding to the member needs, focus on these guides and getting the word out, and also talk about energy storage, which we've just heard is increasingly on the radar of energy managers. Next up, the Energy Management Information Systems Team, EMIS. So this is a new technology, most people agree, and as such, the goal of this team has been a little bit more base level. The products that we generate are introductory. The discussions that we have are just comparing different organizations' use of EMIS, where they've had success, the challenges that they've had, and making those successes available for everyone. So also in 2015, we published an EMIS procurement guide with a draft RFP. I've seen this myself, that a lot of organizations don't even know where to begin purchasing a system like this. They can be expensive, they can be difficult to use, so getting these kind of ABCs of EMIS out there is very important. We also finalized the EMIS primer. This is forthcoming, but it's basically a holistic introduction to the use and adoption of these systems. We mentioned earlier analysis paralysis, so if you have an EMIS system, you might be generating thousands of lines of data, but what do you do with that? This EMIS primer takes a look at that and gives some suggestions on how to make that information useful. Also in 2016, I should mention that we're going to launch an EMIS campaign. We'll actually get rolling in that in 2017, but we'll launch probably at the summit coming up. So anyone with input on energy management information systems or an interest, please get in touch with me. Or of course, Dr. Jessica Granderson is at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab in Berkeley. And Jessica's email is at the bottom there also. On the next slide, the refrigeration team had a pretty interesting 2015. What we did is took member feedback for what the biggest problems are out there, and the answers that we got is it's performance metrics. It's the business model for refrigeration and utility incentives. We broke off into teams to try to solve those problems, and they're tough problems. So we got a lot of information, and that is available as people encounter those issues. In 2016, we'll focus on the high-impact technologies, refrigeration doors, and the ongoing project with Whole Foods on alternative refrigerations. Food service tech team, I mentioned that we're going to wrap this into the sector tech team. Sorry, next slide. In 2015, we did a summary of walk-in coolers and freezers and a guide for demand control kitchen ventilation, which is just in the final stages of being edited. Should be out very soon. Next slide is for the Laboratories technical team. I mentioned that we decided to wrap this up for next year, but the 2015 activities are still available. We updated an ultra-low temperature freezer specification and created a tool for measuring savings. And of course, our work with the International Institute for Sustainable Labs, I2SL, has been a big focus. So again, encourage folks to pursue I2SL with questions. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Deb to talk about market solutions and accelerators. Deb?
Thanks, Andy, and good afternoon, everybody. The Better Buildings Alliance is continuing to support the green leasing efforts, which attempts to assist the owners and the tenants to align through the commercial lease, energy efficiency and other attributes of sustainability. So in conjunction with the Institute for Market Transformation, the Better Buildings Alliance is continuing to promote the Green Lease Leaders program. And in 2015, we are very pleased to share out that we recognized over 800 million square feet of owners, managers, and brokers for engaging in green leasing activities. And the team is currently working on the application for 2016, and we anticipate that that will be available later this year in December. Turning to the Energy Data Accelerator, which has, for the last 2 years, fostered collaboration among almost 24 city and utility pairs to make access to energy information for the purposes of whole building benchmarking. And this White House level initiative will be wrapping up at the end of 2015. The group will be publishing a number of resources and best practices for others to leverage and build upon the good work that that group has been doing. Further, the Better Buildings Alliance has continued to focus on demonstrating the value of energy efficiency. So we have several activities underway this year. There is a new training called Energy Matters that is directed towards the appraisal and valuation professionals. It is being piloted in Washington, D.C. on November 17th, and then there are subsequent offerings of that training that will be taking place in Atlanta, San Francisco, and we believe Chicago in the upcoming couple of months. And then in conjunction with the Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, we are working on a scoping study that's underway on sustainability mortgage underwriting. So we will be able to share more information on that later, early next year. And we are drafting a feasibility study on energy efficiency improvements that are directed at the design and construction phase of new tenant spaces. And this is in response to the legislation that was passed earlier this year, the Energy Efficiency Improvement Act of 2015. So stay tuned. We anticipate that study will be published about mid-April 2016. And then lastly, we have still supporting the workforce development effort. This is a voluntary national set of guidelines to improve the quality and consistency of credentials for energy-related positions. And the Certified Energy Manager is the first of these credentials that is being recognized and is adhering to the new workforce guidelines. So with that, Holly, I turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Deb. No Better Buildings webinar would be complete without a mention of the Better Buildings Challenge. And so let's head to the next slide real quick. I want to make sure that folks on the line, whether you are an existing Better Buildings Alliance member or you're thinking about joining the Alliance, that you know about the Better Buildings Challenge as well. The Better Buildings Challenge is really the leadership circle of our engagement with market leaders. And we had a question, actually very germane to the challenge, from one of our audience members a little while back, asking about specific goals, energy efficiency or carbon reduction goals, and how we work with people to track those. And really the challenge is how we do that. So with our Alliance members, we encourage all of our Alliance members to set an energy efficiency goal. Sometimes that goal is, I just want to track my buildings in Portfolio Manager and understand what I'm using across my portfolio, and sometimes those goals are quite aggressive. We do work with our Alliance members on an annual basis to get a report out from them on how they're doing and how DOE can be helpful. The Better Buildings Challenge steps that up a little bit, and we ask folks who step up to the challenge to set a goal of 20% or greater energy savings across their portfolio, and then to report annually to Department of Energy and work with us to share your best practices. So this really is a recognition program. It really is an opportunity for our leaders among leaders to share what they're doing more broadly with the market. And next slide, please. This is a pretty good sample of our Better Buildings Challenge partners. You can see it's quite a list of folks, over 200 partners who have joined, over 10 billion, sorry, not 10 billion, not 10 billion, 2 billion square feet of space, and lots and lots of excellent case studies and examples of what's working out there in the market. A lot of these partners are starting to hit those goals, so you know, and hit them early. So this is really the portion of our Better Buildings program where we do track goals very closely and publicly with our partners. Next slide, please. What's in it for you? Just to note that, you know, joining the Better Buildings Challenge requires executive sign-on to the partnership, and so it really does serve to elevate energy efficiency to your company or your organization's leadership. DOE also works side by side with you to look through energy data that is provided to us on an annual basis and provide some validation of that energy reporting that you're doing out to the public. DOE can stand next to you and say, hey, yeah, they really are at 12% energy savings. We saw the numbers. This is a White House initiated program, and we continue to have interest and attention from the White House. And so, you know, White House recognition events happen on a fairly regular basis, which is really fun for our partners. We also love to do media events with our partners at your locations, so in your stores, in your classroom buildings across the country. We love to get out there with DOE leadership and really talk about what you're doing and see it in person. And finally, you know, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, we also love to get out and speak at conferences with our partners, write articles about their best practices, and get those stories out there in the market. So lots of opportunity for partnership in the challenge. And I encourage you, if you are interested in the challenge, feel free to reach out to me directly. Contact information will be provided at the end. Next slide, please. So I've mentioned all those solutions over and over again. You've seen from all of our sector AMs, as well as from Andy and the tech teams, all of these resources and solutions. They're now finally available to you in kind of the HQ for the Better Buildings program, which is our new Solutions Center. Please stop by and check it out. It's very searchable. We hope it's user-friendly. You can search, you know, every which way, search by your sector, search by type of solution, search by barrier that you're experiencing to energy efficiency. So, you know, if you'd like to see all of the financing solutions in retail, you can look at them that way. So please check that out and let us know what you think. Next slide, please. This is your personal invitation to join us this spring, May 9th through the 11th here in Washington, D.C. for our annual in-person meeting of all things Better Buildings. The Better Buildings Summit will be held at the Washington Hilton this year. So please get that on your calendar and look for more information about registering for that event very shortly. Next slide, please. And this is a slide just letting you know all of the different ways that you can be in touch with us throughout the month and throughout the year. We have a new blog which came up this summer, our bulletin that goes out once a month, get involved emails that come out monthly to let you know about all of the ways that you can get involved with this program. Webinars, events, peer networking calls, and so forth. We have a monthly top 10 solutions that looks at the most popular hits on our Better Buildings Solutions Center, as well as our monthly webinar series, which takes place the first Tuesday of every month. and then our newsroom, where we post all kinds of things from our partners, where our partners are receiving kudos and doing great things in energy efficiency. And of course, way up there at the top, all of our social media information, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Next slide, please. All right, so we do have some questions coming through from the audience. I mentioned one about timelines and goals for carbon reduction and energy efficiency. We also had a question about the peer benchmarking that was mentioned for both hospitality and higher education, and whether or not that was independent of Energy Star. And yes, it is independent of Energy Star. What we are looking at is the possibility of using the Building Performance Database, which is developed here at Department of Energy, as a method for allowing building owners who have very specific and very individual buildings to look at a comparison more broadly. So, for example, in hospitality, you might be able to say, show me all of the hotels in a climate zone in the Southwest that have conference facilities and have this number of rooms, approximate number of rooms, and really start looking in more detail and comparing in more detail hotels that really do look like yours. And I should mention that this is really just a very early foray into looking to see if the Building Performance Database could serve the needs of folks in hospitality and higher education. So definitely encourage audience members who are interested in this to reach out to Sam Stafford or to John Jameson and learn more. Also a question, how do I officially join the Alliance, and is there a cost to join? Very helpful question, and no, there is no cost to join, and it's very easy to join. So you can either contact any of us that you'll see contact information for at the end of this presentation, or you can go to the Better Buildings Alliance website, and there is a join button and a join form. It takes about 2 minutes to provide us your basic information, and we will take it from there. This is a program of your tax dollars at work, so there is no additional cost to join this program, no additional cost to participate in the activities. And even if you don't participate as a member in the Alliance, all of these resources that you're hearing about are completely free and available for you to download and to use from our website. And the final question that I'm seeing here regarding sector priorities and can they change throughout the year. So you heard a lot about our sector priorities as informed by our steering committees and our calls that we do twice a year with all of our members. And yes, certainly those sector priorities can change. Those are really driven by our membership, and we take pride in working closely with our membership to direct this organization so that it's most useful to you. So I do encourage all of our members to keep in touch with your account managers and with your DOE leads in your sector, and let us know what you're hearing in the market. You have your thumb on the pulse of energy efficiency, and that's what's so wonderful about this partnership, is that we can really learn from you and adjust the organization as needed. With that, Kat and others, if we don't have any further questions, I think we are about ready to, why don't we go to the last slide where we can show folks contact information for all of these sectors. So you see here both the DOE lead and the account manager for each of the sectors. And then your DOE lead and your account manager can certainly put you in touch with the right folks for the tech teams and the market solutions work as well. So with that, I'd like to thank all of you very much for taking an hour out of your day to be with us today. I hope that you've gotten a good sense of what the Alliance is up to and will be up to, please feel free to contact any of your DOE leads or account managers directly with feedback on the work of the Alliance. And I do encourage you to follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn for the very latest on what's happening in the Better Buildings Initiative. As a reminder, you will receive a notice via email when this archived session is available online, and you'll be able to follow all of the links and email addresses there. Thanks again, and have a great afternoon, everyone.